Coming up on our newscast tonight. During a meeting for economy-related ministries, the key topic was sluggish job growth. The finance chief announced new government measures which include boosting private investment and creating 59,000 jobs for youths, people in their 50s and 60s, as well as the elderly. The number of newborns in South Korea fell to record low levels in August, while the number of deaths rose during the same period. With the trend likely to continue, the nation's population is expected to shrink further. High-level and working-level meetings between North Korea and the U.S. are expected to be held soon, according to a South Korean source. While the dates and venues are not yet set, Washington's awaiting Pyongyang's response. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome, I'm Daniel Choi. Many South Koreans have been struggling to find work in the grim employment market. Last month, the overall jobless rate hit 3.6%, marking its highest point in 13 years for September. Today, the government unveils some new measures to tackle the problem. Ko Ryuni has our top story.
At a meeting for ministries related to the economy on Wednesday, Korea's Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon explained how the government is going to create more jobs. He vowed to create 59,000 jobs for youths, people in their 50s and 60s, and the elderly, but didn't confirm an exact timeline. Jobs will be created mainly in central government public institutions and local governments. He also announced plans to boost private investment. Private sector-led investment will take place faster than scheduled, and more than $13.2 billion worth of financial aid will be provided to help companies boost investment. Experts are divided on how this will improve the economic situation in Korea.
Much effort is required to boost investment because the number of employed people will naturally increase afterwards. That is why the government's plan includes encouraging private investment.
Without reforms that could fundamentally change our current economic structure, which is mainly centered on large conglomerates, these measures won't be effective.
The finance chief also said the ministry will speed up innovative growth by embracing the sharing economy, creating new markets for products and services. For instance, the government will provide measures to boost new transportation services and expand the scope of accommodation sharing. And as part of efforts to ease the burden of rising global oil prices on small business owners and households, the government said it will cut domestic transport fuel taxes by 15% for 6 months, starting November 6. The government says it's closely monitoring the economic situation at home and abroad, including the intensifying trade tensions between the U.S. and China, and it plans to announce a comprehensive economic plan for next year in December. Ko Ryuni, Arirang News.
The government announced deregulation measures to make it easier to start a business here in the nation. Seoul's Prime Minister also called for active usage of electric and hydrogen fuel cars. For details, let's turn to our Cha Sang-mi.
The South Korean government is continuing its reform of regulations to ease market entry.
New businesses create jobs and are proof of a vibrant economy. However, when starting a business, you will face multiple obstacles. For example, securing funds, the fear of failure, and maybe a lack of knowledge and experience.
On Wednesday, Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun said the government is reforming 105 regulations for startups. Those include easing licensing and documentation, shortening processing times, and waiving fees. Deregulation is taking place across 86 sectors such as tourism, insurance, security, and culture. The Prime Minister also urged the Ministry of SMEs and Startups to come up with yet more solutions to help entrepreneurs. And in particular, he called for the active adoption of electric and hydrogen-fueled vehicles.
We have world-class technology in hydrogen-fueled vehicles and fuel cells. The hydrogen-powered car President Moon test drove in Paris recently was not only Korean-made, it was the first one in the world to be mass-produced.
The PM said the supply of electric cars have been doubling every year thanks to the government's subsidies for buyers and tax breaks, but the industry is still coming up short when it comes to infrastructure like charging stations. He called on the Government Policy Coordination Office to come up with deregulation measures by mid-November to boost the industry to help Korea increase its exports of green vehicles. 차상미, Arirang News.
South Korea is suffering from a shrinking population as birth rate declines and death rate increases. The digits were especially discouraging in August when it comes to the number of newborns. Yoon Jung-min takes a closer look.
The numbers of births in Korea fell again in August. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, about 27.3 thousand babies were born in August, down 9.3% from the same period last year. In contrast, the number of deaths increased to 23.9 thousand, up 4.8% from the same period last year. The decrease in the number of newborns is the lowest in 33 consecutive months. Among the reasons for the dropping figures stand out the dwindling number of marriages annually, as well as the shrinking number of women in the 29 to 35 age bracket, which stood at 2.35 million last year. Meanwhile, as Korea continues suffering from an aging population, the number of deaths went up 4.8% on year. The data for August marked the highest since 1983. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Around 150 South Korean businessmen could visit the Gaeseong Industrial Complex next week to look over their assets. According to the nation's unification ministry, discussions are being held between the two sides regarding that visit. The South Koreans had to leave the joint factory park in February 2016 when Seoul suspended operations there after Pyongyang's fourth nuclear test. This will be the first time they get to visit the joint park since it closed down. At the Inter-Korean Summit in September, it was agreed the Gaeseong complex will run again once conditions are settled. But Seoul stressed on Wednesday the upcoming visit has nothing to do with reopening the complex. It is only to protect the South Korean businesses' property rights. The South Korean government will use the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund to cover the costs of renovations at the liaison office in Gaeseong. Seoul's Unification Ministry revealed today that the government passed a resolution on the funding at a meeting held throughout this week. After the renovations ended in September, it was identified that some $8.6 million had been spent on remodeling offices and facilities for permanently stationed employees. Back in July, the government decided to provide $76,000 ahead of the renovations and cover the rest when all the expenses had been calculated. Pyongyang and Washington are believed to be discussing working-level and high-level talks. While progress appears slow on the surface, a South Korean official says the U.S. is ready and is currently waiting for the North to respond. Lee Ji-won gets us up to speed with the developments.
A high-level meeting between North Korea and the U.S. is likely to take place as soon as the North is ready. A senior South Korean official with knowledge of the North Korea-U.S. talks told reporters in Washington on Tuesday that high-level talks are still being discussed, but a specific date and venue has not yet been confirmed, as the North is not giving an answer. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in an interview with Voice of America last week that he is hopeful a senior-level meeting between himself and his North Korean counterpart will take place in the next week and a half or so. The South Korean official added the U.S. is ready for the meeting and it'll likely take place as soon as the North replies. On speculation, the North Korean leader's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, who serves as the first Vice Department Director of the Central Committee, could be the counterpart Pompeo mentioned. The South Korean official said it seems the U.S. is also unsure. Pompeo's counterpart had been the vice chairman of North Korea's ruling party Central Committee, Kim Yong-chol, but he did not join the latest talks between Pompeo and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during the secretary's fourth visit to the North. The South Korean official also touched on the working-level talks between North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee and U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun, which was agreed by Kim Jong-un back in October. While the meeting has yet to take place, the official said that too will happen once the North is ready. He added the working-level meeting will cover the joint declaration, escort, and even communication network for the second summit, so it takes time to prepare. The official says North Korea has bet everything into this game, including the dismantlement of its nuclear assets and facilities, and thus Pyongyang has to be careful and thoroughly prepare for the deal. The official expects the North will maintain its request for security assurances and the lifting of sanctions during its talks with the U.S., adding he expects a declaration to end the Korean War to be crystallized during the working-level talks. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The UN's independent investigator on North Korea's human rights presented his assessment of the regime. Thomas Quintana pointed out, despite progress in building peace on the peninsula, there has been no indication of change in Pyongyang's human rights situation. Woo Jung-hee shares with us his remarks.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has had some historic summits with South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump this year. But the outcome statements of those summits did not address human rights, and despite progress on building peace, the human rights situation in the North has not changed. That's the assessment of the UN's Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea.
Together to their important initiatives of engaging with the South Korean government and the U.S. government and some others, it is the time for North Korea to show commitment to the human rights agenda, some way or another. We have seen nothing from North Korea in this respect.
Quintana recalled being a special rapporteur for human rights in Myanmar in 2012. He had voiced concerns on the military committing human rights crimes, but the international community, which was supporting the transition back then, quote, put aside human rights, the consequences of which, he says, we are seeing now. The independent investigator said he supports peace on the Korean peninsula, but that has to come with basic rights secured.
I will support a declaration of peace, definitely. Yes. I believe that there is an interlinked relationship between peace and human rights, and I would say yes to peace. But peace needs to be built also on the enjoyment of basic freedoms and rights.
Quintana called on Pyongyang to show commitment to change. The most important challenge, he says, is to gain access to North Korea. The EU and Japan have been drafting a new resolution on North Korea's human rights, which is to be submitted next week and is expected to be adopted by the General Assembly in December for the 14th straight year. Pyongyang, through its state media, condemned the move, saying Western hostile forces are conspiring to defame North Korea. Woo Jung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korean lawmakers were auditing the state railway operator today. Rival parties were sharply divided over plans to connect railroads across the inter-Korean border. The ruling Democratic Party called it an investment for the future and said the ripple effects will be huge as it will link the Korean peninsula to Eurasia. It also stressed the need for a single government-wide control center to coordinate related projects. However, the main opposition Liberty Korea Party was strongly against the idea, saying that North Korea's denuclearization must come first. It also criticized the railway operator, claiming that internal documents show they've already mapped out specific plans regarding inter-Korean economic cooperation and the operation of railways across the border, despite sanctions still being in place. The opposition added the government should postpone the groundbreaking ceremony for the new railway connections the two Koreas agreed to hold before the year's end. The National Assembly's Special Committee on Political Reform has officially started work. Their first meeting was held today. Committee Chair Shim Sang-jung, a lawmaker from the minor Progressive Justice Party, pledged to create a parliament that better reflects what the people want, stressing her will to change the current electoral system. Rival lawmakers on the committee also agreed on the need for reform, but negotiations down the road aren't expected to be smooth sailing as parties are divided on the specifics. Today's meeting came 3 months after the committee's establishment was approved in July due to partisan wrangling over the proportion of each party's representation. The nation's benchmark stock index closed at the lowest level this year, below 2,100 points. The KOSPI fell 0.4% to 2,097.5 on selling by both local individuals and foreign investors. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also nosedived by 2.75%, closing below 700 points, at the lowest since last November. Shares plunged in most sectors, including medicine and medical supplies, textiles and garments, and non-metallic minerals. Investors pointed to an apparent correction in global stocks, the ongoing U.S.-China trade spat, as well as Saudi tensions, and said the sell-off will likely continue. Daily currency trading volumes in Korea fell in the third quarter due to lower currency volatility. The Bank of Korea says daily FX turnover by local and foreign banks in the nation recorded $54.7 billion in Q3, down more than 5% from the quarter before, making it the lowest reading since the fourth quarter last year. The BOK attributed the fall to lower volatility of the won to dollar exchange rate, which dropped from the second quarter's 0.39% to 0.34%. Since the turn of the year, the won has weakened against the greenback, staying at a range between 1110 and 1140 since July. The increase of fake news and half-baked truths on social media has caused people to question nearly everything they read. In the last installment of our three-part series, Oh Soo-young explores what needs to be done to restore faith in media and help the public distinguish what's real and what's fake.
It seems that Korean society needs more fundamental solutions in its fight against fake news. After the Justice Ministry last week proposed tough measures to crack down on the spread of false information, experts are concerned that this will only suppress the problem rather than resolve it.
There are already laws against defamation and invasion of privacy, so we should start by questioning where existing policies have failed and what we need to change. The term fake news is still vague in definition, so imposing new policies without clarity is worrying. It could clamp down on the freedom of expression, so this issue must be approached with prudence.
Instead of restrictive measures, Hong stressed the role of the government and the media in helping the public distinguish between different shadings of the truth.
But first, the media needs to win back public trust. With the deluge of disinformation, a survey by the Korea Press Foundation this year found that only 1 out of 4 South Koreans trust the news stories that they consume. 61% were worried about fake news.
I think there's a lot of fabrication, so I take in about half of what I see and filter out the rest.
I'd say I trust about 30 to 40% of what I see. I don't trust traditional broadcasters either. I get suspicious because of their ties to politics.
To boost their credibility, experts say journalists in Korea need to improve the quality of their reporting and help expose fake news by setting the facts straight. A number of papers and broadcast programs now carry fact-checking news reports. But it's not just a task for politicians or journalists. Battling disinformation also requires a conscious effort from the public, especially as social media platforms tend to recommend content based on the user's preferences.
I would really call for people to be given better guidance about what's real and what's fake, but also to engage in more critical thinking and public discourse about these kind of debates.
Popular online platforms also have some responsibility for improving media literacy. Experts say they need to invest more in educating their users to help them spot fake news. They should also develop ways to present content from legitimate, credible sources while maintaining diversity of opinion. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Here in Korea, in recent years, there have been many cases of illegal filming. Some of them involve spy cams being used to capture people undressing in places like public bathrooms and posting the videos online. As a result, there's growing demand for sterner government measures. Choi Si-young has the full story.
Since 2014, more than 5,000 cases of spy cams and revenge porn, or more recently dubbed as illegal filming cases, have been annually reported in Korea, alarming the public. Women and men are captured on film without knowledge in public bathrooms, dressing rooms, and even through home windows. The video clips are uploaded on websites serving as platforms for sharing such type of footage. Some city governments have launched teams searching for spy cams installed in public bathrooms. Moreover, an online petition has been uploaded on the Blue House website asking the presidential office to strengthen the punishments against illegal filming. Justice Minister Park Sang-gi vowed that prosecutors will now seek for the maximum penalty and even appeal if a court hands down milder sentences against those guilty of illegal filming. Meanwhile, lawmakers have been proposing bills revising the current special act on the punishment of sexual crimes and are awaiting to vote on them.
Cases of the so-called illegal filming continue to grow due to a lack of stronger punishments, so I proposed increasing the maximum penalty for the perpetrators.
Some experts, however, advise the government should take stricter measures. They added that currently the law does not distinguish between spy cam and revenge porn.
Punishment for revenge porn should be harsher more than any other similar crime because revenge porn is done deliberately to harm and ruin the reputation of others.
With the proposed bill still pending at the National Assembly, it'll be a matter of time to see if stricter legislation and stronger punishments would be enough to curb illegal filming. 최시영, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now, Blackpink has become the first K-pop group to have 3 music videos with over 400 million YouTube views. According to YG Entertainment, the music video for their debut song Kumbaya, released in 2016, reached 400 million views on YouTube on the 23rd of this month. This is Blackpink's 3rd music video to reach that milestone, following As If It's Your Last and Dudu Dudu. K-pop boy band BTS, which has been garnering growing global recognition, has 1 music video with over 400 million views. Speaking of BTS, the boys return home after some 50 days of a highly successful American and European world tour. They are here to receive a prestigious cultural medal awarded by the South Korean government. Won Jong-han fills us in on the significance of a young boy band earning this national recognition.
Another big achievement for BTS. The sensational boy band has received one of the Korean government's prestigious medals for culture, the 5th rank of the Hwagan Order of Cultural Merit. It's given to those who have contributed to the development of the national culture, in the case of BTS, for helping spread Korean culture and the Korean alphabet Hangul around the world. The band went to accept the medal Wednesday in Seoul at the 9th Korea Entertainment Awards, a ceremony run by the Ministry of Culture. With an average age of less than 24 years old, the members of BTS have become the youngest ever recipients of the cultural medal, an honor higher than even a commendation from the president. It had been given previously only to artists who'd worked for an average of around 50 years.
Thank you. When we go abroad, we see a lot of people singing along to our songs and studying our language, Hangul. We feel very proud, and we promise we will continue to promote our culture to the world.
Only twice before has the medal been given for promoting Korean culture, in 2008 to actor Bae Yong-jun and in 2012 to pop star Psy. Their fans are outspoken about why they love the band so much.
They're very real. Very many celebrities, especially in America, which is where we're from, it's hard to get into touch with what they're feeling. They very rarely express, what they're feeling, what they're going through, and BTS is so fluid with everything. They're transparent. They don't seem to hide anything.
They just seem like they're just having a lot of fun doing what they're doing. A lot of celebrities look like it's fake. They just look like they're really enjoying it, so it looks real from behind the scenes.
With one more prestigious decoration on their shelf, BTS will resume their world tour called Love Yourself, with concerts scheduled for next month in Japan. Won Jong-han, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, it's comfortable autumn weather during the day, but it feels more like winter at night.
That's right, Daniel. Now, afternoon conditions are very nice these days. Clear sky, refreshing air, and also mild temperatures. However, as soon as the sun sets, the mercury plunges, causing many people to get sick. So don't let those temperature changes get the best of you and dress in layers. Now, the weather tomorrow nationwide will be similar to today's conditions. Beijing will also be a repeat of the previous day's weather, while Tokyo finally gets to see the sun after days under rain and clouds. Now, checking out the temperature readings for tomorrow, Seoul begins the day at 9 degrees Celsius, Daegu at 6, while Busan hits to 12. And the daily highs for most parts of the nation will reach up to 20s. Now, Seoul topping out to 21, Chuncheon a bit lower at 19 degrees. Now, enjoy this nice autumn weather while you can, because rain is in the horizon for the entire nation on Friday, which will be followed by further drops in the mercury. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you on tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thanks for staying with us.